What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for the Week 37 Premier League predictions. Now, I want to give a shout out to all of you for the support on the videos lately. Ever since the Premier League restart, we've been absolutely crushing it. We're getting closer and closer to 10,000 subscribers. And before we go any further, please do drop a like down on the video because we've once again smashed 200 likes on the previous Premier League predictions video. And I want to give a shout out to SR Soccer 312 who left their predictions on the previous video and correctly predicted the Spurs victory and the Arsenal victory with a perfect 2-1 scoreline prediction. So well done to you there. If you guys want to be featured in the next episode of the Premier League predictions, which will be the last episode of this season until September when we restart again, then leave your predictions down in the comments below. If you predict a particular upset that maybe not many people were expecting, you probably have a better chance of getting into the video. There were a couple of you that did predict Arsenal would take the dub. I didn't quite go that far. I said 2-2 in the end, and I was very, very close. But speaking of that, let's take a little look back at week 36 and see how I got on. It was a decent week with a couple of correct scores, but a couple of incorrect results as well. So kicking it off, we had Chelsea versus Norwich. I predicted the win to 0, but not as cagey as it was. I went for 4-0 to Chelsea, and it was just a cagey little 1-0 win, to be honest. The next one, Burnley versus Wolves. I was very, very confident on this score prediction as well. My now two most recent correct score predictions have been 1-1 draws for Burnley. I correctly predicted they would draw 1-1 with Wolves, thanks to a late penalty that did come to fruition. Manchester City up against Bournemouth. I was very, very close. I predicted a 3-1 win to Man City, and it ended 2-1 to Man City. But Bournemouth were quite unlucky to get nothing from that game, if I'm completely honest. And I think if they played as well as they did in that game and had the personnel that they had in that game, and they've had that throughout the season, I don't think they'd be struggling for relegation in the way that they are. But that's just unfortunately the way the cookie crumbles, and has crumbled for Bournemouth this season, very much like their position in the table. Next up, Newcastle versus Tottenham. My initial prediction, I did say 2-1 to Tottenham, but then I thought, you know what, let's go crazy and give the win to Newcastle, and I wish I didn't because it ended up being an away win to Tottenham. Now, Arsenal versus Liverpool, as I said, I predicted a 2-2 draw between the two teams, and it ended in 2-1. I mean, the stats, it was all Liverpool, certainly up until the first goal. The first 10 minutes or so, Arsenal looked okay. They looked okay, but they didn't look like scoring, and it was only inevitable that Liverpool would keep pressing and pressing and score. So the first 20 minutes, when Liverpool went 1-0 up, that was typical classic Liverpool. What you don't expect is then a Van Dijk error and an Alisson error that Arsenal took very clinically and gave them the lead, and Liverpool then couldn't bounce back. I was hoping, part of me was hoping they did so I could get the correct score prediction, but obviously I'm glad Arsenal won in the end. Everton Aston Villa, I predicted a 2-1 home win to Everton. It ended in a 1-1 draw. Leicester Sheffield United, I predicted a 1-1 draw, and Leicester got a very big 2-0 win. Crystal Palace versus Manchester United, I predicted correctly the 2-0 away win to Manchester United, so I was quite happy with that one. Southampton Brighton, I predicted a 2-1 home win to Southampton, and it ended 1-1, but Southampton definitely had their fair share of chances and could have made it 2-1 quite easily. And at the time of posting this and recording this, West Ham and Watford haven't yet played, but I went for a 2-1 win to West Ham. Now, we move into week 37. It's really, really heating up. Relegation isn't totally sealed, but it looks more or less done. The main thing is the race for top 4. Obviously, now we know that Manchester City aren't banned from the Champions League, so it will be the top 4 spots only, if I'm not mistaken. Kick it off, we have Norwich up against Burnley, and I only see this going one way. Norwich haven't really had the best time, and I was speaking to my dad about this the other day. Apparently, at the start of the Premier League season, the manager of Norwich basically said that he reckoned that they had about 5% chance of survival in the Premier League, and 5% seems pretty generous now, having looked at how it went. But I give Burnley the win in this one. I think that they've been playing pretty well, it has to be said. It's going to be low scoring. I don't see Norwich getting a goal here. I thought maybe they would get one against, say, West Ham, for example, but they got absolutely slapped as well. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Burnley. Now, the next fixture is very, very interesting. It's Bournemouth up against Southampton. Southampton don't really have a lot to play for, and as you guys reminded me, although Southampton do have pretty good away form, Bournemouth have to win this one. They just have to win this one, and I think there are positives they can take from the performance against Manchester City and the previous performance against Leicester, obviously. So I'm going to give Bournemouth the win in this one. They have to win. Like even if they do, there's no saying that they will get promoted. They will stay in the Premier League, but I'd expect West Ham or Watford, one of the two, to lose tonight, so that would put Bournemouth in a decent position. Obviously, it still looks likely that they'll go down, but I think Bournemouth will need to get this win, so I'm going to go for the 2-1 scoreline. Now, the next fixture is massive. It's Tottenham up against Leicester, and I just I couldn't separate it. Whilst Leicester have way more to play for, Tottenham are slowly, you know, they're looking a little bit better. They got a sort of, I would say, a fairly scrappy win over Arsenal. Tottenham didn't look like the better side, but they got the win regardless. But they did beat Newcastle at St. James's Park, which is quite difficult to do. So I think Tottenham at home are going to be able to keep Leicester to a draw. I know typically Tottenham games are lower scoring, but Leicester are going to go for it with all they've got. So I'm going to go for a high scoring 2-2 draw. Now, next up we have Brighton up against Newcastle. I'm going to go for a lower scoring draw here. I think both teams will score because Brighton do look like scoring, whether that be Morpay or Trossard. Those are the two danger men. Perhaps Dunk from a corner because he's absolutely massive, just towering over everybody. But Newcastle, they've got goals in them as well. Almiron finally scoring a few this year. Joe Linton, I don't know if he's even playing. I don't hear anything about Joe Linton, to be honest. But Alan Saint-Maximin's in good form as well. And I think Newcastle will be able to bounce back from their loss against Tottenham and muster up a 1-1 draw here on the South Coast. Now, the next game is Sheffield United up against Everton. And I don't know how to play this one. Obviously, Everton just coming off of a 1-1 draw with Aston Villa and Sheffield United getting beaten by Leicester 2-0. I think it's going to be, I would say, either maybe you know what? I'm going to change my prediction. I'm going to change my prediction to this. That's what we're going to do. I originally had 1-1 draw, but Everton, they don't like travelling away from home, and it just takes me back to the Wolves game where Everton went to Molineux and lost 3-0, and I predicted a 1-1 draw. Sheffield United, they'll want to bounce back from their game against Leicester. They'll want to finish the season strong, so I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Sheffield United in this fixture. Now, speaking of 1-0, I have gone for that again. Wolves up against Crystal Palace. As I said, I'm going to go for 1-0 to Wolves in this fixture. Palace looked okay against Manchester United, to be fair, right up until the last 10 minutes, right up until the second goal went in, really. Palace looked in it. They did score a goal that was offside by the barest of margins, so it was unfortunate there, but Palace looked all right. However, Wolves, they look good defensively. They aren't conceding too many goals. They aren't scoring tons of goals. I was thinking maybe 1 or 2-0, but I very rarely go for a 1-0 prediction despite doing it in the last fixture and now doing it in this one. But before that, I don't think I went for 1-0 at all since the restart. So I'm going to go for another low-scoring game, 1-0 to Wolves. And that is also a lie because I did correctly predict Brighton to beat Norwich 1-0 away from home earlier on. So yes, 1-0 to Wolves in this fixture. Coming up after that, we have Watford up against Manchester City. Watford will be hoping that they didn't lose to West Ham like I predicted, because going up against Manchester City is not what you want. Man City will have played in the FA Cup. The predictions for that semi-final will be up on the channel in a couple of hours, by the way. And I'm going to go for a Manchester City win here. They will have rested, I think. I don't think they'll play maybe a full squad, but I see them getting the win here nonetheless. So that is why I'm going to go for a 4-0. A 4-0 away win to Manchester City. Now, the next game, Aston Villa up against Arsenal. This one really is quite a tough one to predict. Obviously, Aston Villa, they managed to take a point from Everton. It still looks like Aston Villa will be relegated. Arsenal have been playing some pretty good football. They managed to beat Liverpool. It wasn't in the conventional Arsenal of old dominant home performance style, but they managed to get the win. They were unlucky against Tottenham, in my opinion, and I do think Arsenal are going to have just enough against Aston Villa. They've been conceding fewer goals this year. Their away form has been a bit better in recent times this calendar year, as opposed to, say, last season when Arsenal's away form really wasn't that great. So I am going to give Arsenal the win here, 2-1 away from home. After this, we have Manchester United up against West Ham. West Ham, like I said, don't know the result against Watford yet, but I predicted them to get the home win. And West Ham are good to give you a goal. Antonio's finally scoring. West Ham are looking pretty secure in the Premier League at this point, it has to be said. But Man United are looking good as well. They're scoring quite a few goals, and I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win to Manchester United, because United do still have that defensive error in them. They have a pretty solid back line. David De Gea is obviously still a great keeper, but I do think West Ham will be able to get onto the score sheet. Perhaps West Ham take a 1-0 lead, Manchester United kick into gear and actually get the win. And the final game is very big. It's Liverpool up against Chelsea. Now, this was a very tough one to predict because Liverpool have won the league and now they have absolutely nothing to play for. They don't have a point record that they can go and beat. They could beat their own personal point record, I think, if they win their last 2 games, but it's quite tough to get you motivated for that. But it is at Anfield. Chelsea did knock Liverpool out of the FA Cup, and Liverpool would feel pretty good for Liverpool to knock Chelsea out of the top 4 if they were to do so. But then again, you never know. I don't know what sort of performance they're going to put on. And Chelsea, they've been a little bit dodgy at the back lately, conceding a few goals, and if you've been a bit bit leaky in defence. You don't really want to be going to Anfield. So although Chelsea really need a win and you don't know what you're going to get from Liverpool, that doesn't mean that the Liverpool players won't want to win the game. So I'm going to give Liverpool the 2-1 home win. But that is a very tough one to predict, in my opinion. So that is going to do it for the Week 37 predictions. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like on it, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss a future video. And as I said, the FA Cup predictions will be up on the channel in just a couple of hours at 8 PM. So that is going to do it from me. I'm going to go and record that right now, and I will see you in that video very soon.